Hello and welcome to Sim.bc, where hopefully the sound problem yet again has been fixed because yesterday I had to enhance all of the audio. So today I've made some readjustments on the microphone. It's probably way too loud, but we're gonna find out, mates. Isn't that the case? Because this is about of a journey, right? For all of us, not just for you who's watching, but for me as well when I'm learning the new mechanisms of my microphone. Because there are lots of stuff about it that I didn't actually, know it could do. So that's always, dependable, if it depends on if it's good or bad, depending on how you see it. But today, mates, it is just about, I was gonna say 3:15 there, but it's actually 3:14. Yes, all about that punctuality being correcto mundo. Am I right, people? Am I right? Had a bit of an interesting discussion today as well in a seminar in school where we're discussing business ethics. Is it legal or is it right or wrong? And for some reason, right, we had a bit of a... we had two different lines where people could go and make crosses, and there was like this ethical dilemma, that we were talking about, and it doesn't really matter what it is, but the results was quite interesting because people were sometimes saying that, well, it's ethically right, but it's legally wrong, and some other people had the other interpretation that it's legally correct, but it's ethically wrong. And I was just sitting there like, how can it be legally illegal or legal? It's the same action still. Doesn't really matter where you're coming from in this particular case, and you just have to take my word for it. So I was just sitting there like, you can't interpret the law in that way, can you? Isn't the law like fact? Isn't the law like what it is? Anyway, mates, that's not why you're here. Just an interesting discussion that some people had a different view about the same ethical dilemma. We're talking about it's legal, no, it's illegal, it's wrong, no, it's right. And even though some people thought it was right, they thought it was illegal. And even though some people thought it was illegal, or legal rather, they thought it was wrong. So it's quite an interesting point there. But yeah, as I said, that's not why you're here, mates. No, it's not. You're here to talk about questions. Am I right? Them questions, are they too hard? Are they too easy? Why not? And how can I structure them in order to make them better? I mean, what is there really in life that you can rely on? Well, it's me, mates. No, just kidding, mates. But anyway, getting into it. Going to just read off me description here from the last episode, and then we're gonna get right into it. So, the beginning, the background that we have from the last episode is tips and tricks for making an in-between question that is not too hard and not too easy and is interesting to your audience. And from yesterday's video, we know that people tend to drift both in and out of conversations when not feeling engaged, which makes them having a harder time understanding the context, right? The context in which the questions is asked, and hence making said question a hard experience, even though it objectively, right, based on the others in the room, might have been a really easy one. So making necessary questions in order to keep audience engagement is one thing, but it also needs to be kept short and simple. And that is what we're going to be focusing on today, mates. Keeping it short and simple. Why? Well, because if I fire away, right, I'm just bombarding you with the most unnecessary questions, right, as I said yesterday, but they're not only unnecessary, they're long too. I mean, can you imagine the nightmare of not only having to be listening to things that you don't care about, but having to be listening to them for a long while as well? I mean, just imagine, mate. Just imagine you coming here and want to know about questions, and I'm sitting here like, well, in order for you to make a good question, cars have four wheels that are not always in conjunction with each other when it comes to the four-wheel drive, because there is an interlinked component that's sort of, you know what I mean, just going on and on about something that you don't really care about. It's not what you came here for. It's not what you wanted to know from this video. It's not what you wanted to know from any video. Maybe you just wanted to know about questions, and here I am talking about abstract concepts that are not necessary, they're not to the point, they're talking about something completely different. As I said, just restating the same issue from yesterday's video, but keeping it short and simple, because you don't only need to make necessary questions, you do not only need to talk about something that is necessary for your audience to get, something that they're interested in, something that they want to know about. You also have to make it one, short, and two, simple, and those are arguably two different things. So we're going to break them both down. So the difference between asking a simple question and a very, I'm not going to say hard, because it can still be a hard question even though it's simply phrased. A simple question can be a question that's addressing one problem, whilst a complex question can be a question that has different layers, many different layers to address at the same time simultaneously. Now, let's just say that you're a teacher, right, mate? You're a teacher standing in front of an audience, in front of a group of students who are not that engaged to be there, to be honest, right? They would rather go to a party, they would rather go home, they would rather just breathe in the corridor than be here right now. I know it shouldn't be like that, but sometimes it unfortunately is. So, when you're asking a follow-up question or a sort of question in order to create some sort of discussion, these people will already have the disadvantage of not being engaged in the subject. So you need to make them engaged. How do you make them engaged? Well, first and foremost, necessary questions. And necessary questions that are simple enough for the students to understand. As I stated before, people tend to drift in and out of these things. They tend to listen for a while and then it's like, oh, my phone just rang. I'm just going to look at some things and oh, that's quite interesting. I didn't know Jonas was doing that. Gary's getting a new job. Quite interesting. And then back to what were we talking about? Context, about visualization, business goals. I'm totally in with this. So you as a teacher need to be able to ask questions that are simple, that are just having one thing in mind when you're asking the question. And I know that some teachers are going to be like, well, if you haven't listened, then that's your own fault. And to a point, that is true. Yet again, I'm just going to restate the mindset that I have, that 90% of the the responsibility of keeping engagement in class and keeping engagement in the room is on you as a lecturer. I wholeheartedly believe that. And only 10% of the people who are listening, they are only there to actually listen to what you're saying, and then it's your job to captivate them. So if you haven't captivated them, well, then you shouldn't penalize them by asking utterly complex questions that they arguably couldn't answer even if they were listening to you. And making it simple is not, and just addressing one point is not just a question about have you listened or not. It's also about have you actually understood what you've been listening to or not. Because I could be asking you all different things about questions right now, what we've been covering so far, and when we're on the 10th point I can ask you again, and you might be like, I've watched all the videos but I still have no clue what you're talking about, because you addressed so many points simultaneously. It's just a mess of things to go through, and I totally understand that. So a better way for a lecturer to ask something, or a better way for me to ask you something, would be to make it simple. I'm asking for one specific thing, right? I'm asking you for one thing. If I ask you to review the channel, I don't ask you to review the channel. I want to know about the lighting. Am I kind of yellow right now? Is it too light in the background? Is my guitars bothering you? Why not? This water bottle is here. Wonder why it's here. It's necessary for the channel, right, that it's here, because I get to keep hydrated. And then I have my phone, and my phone is awfully a lot in the pictures, even though it shouldn't be. What do you think about that? What's a good thing about that? And halfway through the question, you're going to be like, I know the answers to all of these questions. They're not hard in and of themselves, but just because you've stated so many things at once, you've added a complexity, a level of complexity to the question that was unnecessary. Keep it simple. Ask for one thing at a time. Address one thing at a time, and then perhaps go deeper within that subject. If you're a lecturer, if you're a teacher, go deep on that subject once you have everybody on board. But ask about a simple thing that is linear, maybe to begin with, and then branch out from there. But make sure that you have your people with you before you go any further. Don't ask 1,000 easy questions at once. Ask simple questions that's still hard, but to the point, and have one specific, direction of answers. And then we're just going to get into keep it short. And this is also it's arguably good and arguably bad. And it's going to be about the same idea here, that you can ask a question, right? And you can begin a question. And if it's not abundantly clear that this is the question, and it's a long question, some people might just sit there and realize, thinking like, oh, this is just part of the lecturing, and I'm going to take notes of this, and I'm going to listen to this. And then you as the teacher are standing there, you've been talking for about, like, say, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and you're saying, what do you think about that? And that's okay if you're talking about something new, if you introduced a concept, because then it wouldn't be a question. But if you base the last 5 to 10 minutes on making a question, people will be all like, I understood and I remember the last 2 minutes, I probably, and they probably know the answer to all of the, like, to the entire question. You just that you stated it for so long, giving so much context, and not context that was just context to be good context, you know, context of the course, content rather, context to be content. You actually asked everything as a question, which makes people feel like, I don't remember half of it, mate. It would be better if you went through context, made people think that, oh, I'm going to take notes of this, making sure that this is not a question, not stating that it's a question, not saying that it's a question. And then in the end, you summarize these 10 minutes in a short 1 minute, and then you say, based on this information, I have a question for you. Instead of embedding a question in a 10-minute part, which people are not going to listen to anyway. And even if they do listen to it, we yet again come back to this idea that it's adding unnecessary complexity, that it's not complexity originating from that it's hard, it's just complexity originating from that I need to remember all of these small stuff that you talked about. And I don't, because it's the first time I've heard it. It's probably a one-time thing. This is probably just going to be a question about this specific thing in this course at this point in time right now, so I haven't actually spent that much time listening to you. And not again that I not listened to it, it's not that maybe I haven't actively listened all of the time. I haven't really thought about what you stated as a question. So yet again, keep it short and to the point, short and simple. You don't want to have a complex question that have multiple layers of multiple answers going down many different paths directly and stating this question over the course of 10 to 15 minutes. You do not want to do that, because you will lose more people than you could ever gain to your class if you're doing this consistently. What you want to do is go through the material, and based on the material, you're going to say, now I'm going to make a question. Make it abundantly clear that you're making a question, so that people are spicing their ears to thinking, now it's a question, I'm going to think and reflect about this. Make it short, maybe 30 seconds. That might be too long. So if you have been discussing cars, then instead of asking what is all of the parts in the car, what is the wheel for, what are the seats for, what is the roof made of, why is this made of this material, what impact does it have on society today, and then going on and on about that for 10 minutes, you instead say, what is the wheel made of? And then you will come to the conclusion that it's made of a certain type of material. And based on the answer being given by your audience, now you've engaged them, they're with you, they're in on it, they're thinking, I've answered, I've been thinking about this, I've been reflecting about this on my own. Now you can move into some more complex questions, you can take it into a different direction, because you've already taken your audience, engaged them, made them feel like they're part of what we're talking about, and now you can branch out. But what you don't want to do, yet again, is making a long question that nobody listens to, with lots of objectives that nobody's going to remember stating, that nobody's going to remember you've stated. That's just not going to work. Even though it's easy, people might not get it, and you're going to stand there and be like, they haven't understood a single thing, whilst they, in all honest reality, probably have, but it's just you who've stated the question really poorly. So that was everything from me today, mates. To take away from this, I'm just going to summarize it in a bit and then ask you a question, right? To summarize from this, keep it short, keep it simple. Not simple in the way that you make it easy, just simple in the way that you don't make it too complex with too many layers of too many different objectives. Have one objective. Short, not in the sense that you're having a short reasoning and a short discussion about it. Short in the sense that you're making it short. Less than 15 seconds. Around 15 seconds is probably a good question after you've gone through the context. Yet again, so that when people are drifting in and out, they don't drift out during the question and then come back in at the end. And of course they're going to listen the entire time, but they're not going to actively listen and take in what you're saying. And then you will probably have a better time as a lecturer, as a teacher, saying that my audience actually understands this. And my question to you is, do you have any other perspectives on this? Do you have any other tips? Do you have any examples of this? Have this happened to you? Please comment in the comment section below and say what you think about it. Create a discussion, mates. What's your point of view? What's my point of view? How is mine differing from you? Why not? Is it good? Is it bad? All of that matters, mates. That's how we're making ourselves better. That's how we're educating ourselves together. Anyway, mates, that was all from me. Due to, YouTube's new algorithm and all of that, I have to kind of say like, comment, and subscribe, mates. But outside of that, have a nice one, mates. I'll see you tomorrow with Ask Direct Questions. That is right, numero 3.